if we're holding that fear in our throat and then we try to sing or express on top of that or step onto a stage, and we're literally feeling physically blocked here and not in our most powerful voice. And so then we'll often make up a story, and I've so been here, right? Then we make up the story, oh, I'm really not good enough, or my singing isn't great, or I have terrible stage fright and I don't think I can do this, whatever the story is, and we lodge that back in the throat and it becomes tighter and a deeper issue on energetic levels and on physical levels. And then we go back to the fear. So we've created a cycle. So we have fear, the blockage lives in the throat. Because of that blockage, we feel like we can't express ourselves fully. And then when we struggle with that self-expression, we make up a story that we're not good enough, and then we go back into fear. Okay, so this is really the crux of this whole thing, and I'm going to teach you in a little while a practice to help you free up this block. Attention all high vibe women and femme singer-songwriters. It is time to step into your true artistic calling so that you can make an impact in the world with your music. Hi, I'm Emma Back, and I'm the founder of She Sings Out Loud, and it is my mission in life to help heal the ancient wounding of the feminine through my own music, and by empowering you, women and femme singer-songwriters, to move away from your fear, your self-doubt, your shame, and your overwhelm to really step into your soul sound, your most authentic voice, and be able to develop that so that you can claim the stage with confidence, connect with your soulmate audience, and make an impact in the world with your music. You are watching the replay of our weekly Facebook Live show every Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. We are live in the She Sings Out Loud Sisterhood Facebook group, which you can join for free. And we also occasionally broadcast the show more publicly to the She Sings Out Loud Facebook and Instagram pages. And I do interviews with inspiring guests who are here to empower you in taking the next step with your music. And I also talk about my own journey and offer various trainings and core pieces of the She Sings Out Loud work. So I hope you will join us live in the future and enjoy this replay. Today we are talking about your throat chakra, and specifically we're talking about issues of the throat, both physically and emotionally, and issues of voice and self-expression, and how we can really heal all of that by connecting to our throat and the energy of the throat chakra and actually using our own voice to heal our sense of voicelessness, our limited self-expression, any fear that comes up around expressing ourselves, any fear around really living into our divine potential, and any issues with the throat by using our voice herself. So let us dive in. So first of all, when we're talking about the throat chakra, this is our fifth chakra, and this is the energy center right here that lives in the throat, obviously, right? And one thing that I find interesting is it is halfway between the heart and the head, and really it's been called sort of the midpoint in terms of the kind of lower chakras and the upper chakras. The heart is often also called the midpoint, but I think it is interesting to think about the throat as the connection between the lower chakras, between our sense of power, our connection to tribe, our willpower, and our sense of love and relationships and connectivity, and also the higher chakras which have to do with kind of reaching into the energy of the divine, into the divine potential, into divine guidance, into our highest calling, and to things that are really kind of out of this body or this physical world. So in my mind, it is really the bridge between the earth and the heavens, or the physical world and the spiritual world. So that is something that I think is really interesting to consider as we sort of look at these other things that we're going to talk about today. So the throat chakra has to do with creativity, with self-expression, with communication, and inside of communication with relationships, with how we really interact with others and relate with others. And it has to do with our willpower, specifically with our will to express ourselves or to really take action out in the world that has to do with self-expression or with offering our gifts or with just kind of stepping into our divine potential. So the throat chakra is also associated with choice, with our agency, with our ability to have control over our own life and to really choose how we interact with the world, how we operate, and how we really, again, kind of put ourselves out into the world, or any choice that we make in our lives. The throat chakra also has to do with action and with offering. So again, it is sort of the bridge between the physical world and the spiritual world, between the earth and the heavens. And it is really where we kind of step out of just ourselves into this connection with others, into this expression of our truth and offering of our gifts. It also has to do with faith. So this could be our faith in ourselves. It could be our faith that we are allowed to be as big as we want to be, or we are allowed to take up space, or we are allowed to really step into, again, this divine calling or what we most want for our lives. So it is kind of this faith that we can live the life that we want, that we have permission to live into our divinity and to express our truth in the world. It also can be our faith in the divine, or anything that you have faith in. So it could be your faith in nature, any way that you experience faith or trust around yourself and the world. So a lot of the issues in the throat chakra, which we'll get into in a minute, can kind of center around this lack of trusting ourselves, lack of trusting that we can receive what will support us, lack of trust in our world, which I know is really up for us right now, which is part of why I wanted to have this discussion. So anything that we struggle with in terms of having faith or trusting can kind of come up in the throat chakra. And in its empowered state, it's our ability to just, no matter what, really have faith, to trust divine timing, to trust that any circumstance, including those that are challenging, is actually leading us towards living our divine potential. Anything that we have faith in lives in the throat chakra. So back to this idea of it being halfway between the earth plane and the spiritual plane, this throat chakra, it is really this opening of our communication to the divine. So it is our communication on this earthly plane, but also how we pray, how we connect to the divine. The divine could be anything for you. It could be your experience of nature. It could be God. It could be different archetypes that you interact with, or any sense of kind of magic and mystery. So it is our ability to kind of communicate with this sense of higher power and also with our highest sense of self. So it's our ability to communicate with our deepest self. That lives in the throat chakra. And the other piece of this, when we talk about the willpower, is that the throat chakra is really about surrendering our need to control things, or our need to be right about how things are in this very kind of solid way and this egocentric way, to really surrendering to the divine, which again takes faith. So really trusting, again, in divine guidance, in divine timing, and in what we most have to offer in the world and what we most want to do with this precious life, and surrendering that to the divine will with this faith that we are being held and supported no matter what to do this. So if we are struggling with issues of the throat, it could be this challenge to really surrender our own control, surrender our own kind of self-clinging or clinging to certain things in our life, and to just really let go and trust that we are being supported. And when we are clinging really tightly, we can have these issues around throat and self-expression, but when we really open that up and when we really step into this trust, that will give us the ability to really rise into our highest potential and to rise into our full self-expression. It's very difficult to be self-expressed when we are tight and constricted and clinging in this way. So that's a really important aspect of the throat chakra. So the issues that can arise in the throat chakra are issues around silencing ourselves, or being silenced. The throat chakra brings up issues around not speaking up for what we need, not asking for what we need. And this, I think, can be especially true for women in relationships. For a very long time, it has not been safe to speak up for our own needs. We have really, in our culture, and definitely in ancient cultures, there is a sense of women being in service to men and not having permission to have our own needs. So really, those issues we're still carrying on a really deep biological level, all of these inherited patterns around not really speaking up for our needs, okay? The issues can also have to do with fear. Fear lives in the throat and in the throat chakra, which is why when we are talking about wanting to be empowered as singers, as musicians, as songwriters, as performers, we really need to deal with any issues that might be coming up in the throat, because we are often holding so much of that fear in our throat. And then we experience that blockage in the throat as a challenge to really sing at our best or express at our best, or any kind of creative block that might come up. And then we can kind of create this vicious cycle, right? So we have fear around putting ourselves out there in the world and stepping onto the stage, or stepping into our highest calling, or expressing ourselves, or even creating, right? We can have fear of the blank page. We can have creative paralysis. We can just feel really stuck in our creative process. That's all throat chakra issues. Okay, so if we're holding that fear in our throat, and then we try to sing or express on top of that, or step onto a stage, and we're literally feeling physically blocked here and not in our most powerful voice. And so then we'll often make up a story, and I've so been here, right? Then we make up the story, oh, I'm really not good enough, or my singing isn't great, or I have terrible stage fright and I don't think I can do this, whatever the story is, and we lodge that back in the throat, and it becomes tighter and a deeper issue on energetic levels and on physical levels. And then we go back to the fear. So we've created a cycle. So we have fear, the blockage lives in the throat. Because of that blockage, we feel like we can't express ourselves fully. And then when we struggle with that self-expression, we make up a story that we're not good enough, and then we go back into fear. Okay, so this is really the crux of this whole thing, and I'm going to teach you in a little while a practice to help you free up this block using your own voice. Okay, so that is a really key thing. But moving on to some other issues before we do that. So another issue can be, as I said, trying to control the outcomes of our life, or clinging to a solid identity versus our ability to just surrender and to trust. Loss of agency. So any experience of loss of agency, including sexual abuse, can live as a blockage in the throat chakra. Holding ourselves back from expressing our truth or walking our true path. That is a throat chakra issue. Resisting the divine calling. So if you hear the knock or you hear the call and you are in some kind of resistance, maybe you're in a story about not having the money to take the next step. Maybe you feel like what you have to offer isn't worthy. Maybe you feel that you have to attend to like the mundane or the kind of important aspects of life first before you actually carve out that time to work on your craft and to step into your divine calling. Whatever is going on for you, if you're resisting that, it's going to throw up. It's going to throw up. It's going to throw up. That's actually good. That didn't mean to say that, but it's kind of that. It's like we're kind of, instead of empowered self-expression, we're kind of throwing up on ourselves in a way. Excuse the grossness of that, but it kind of works a little bit. But what I wanted to say was we're going to just really struggle with that self-expression. And just like the fear cycle, this resisting our divine calling is this vicious cycle that we get in, and can be really hard to break that pattern because it gets so lodged in the throat, and there's so many stories that come up with that. Any way that we've limited our self-expression shows up in the throat chakra, okay? And any feeling of being cut off from our true voice, or the inability to find our true voice, or any struggle with singing, intonation, feeling scratchy dryness in your throat. This is all things that show up in the throat chakra and is part of how it manifests. So any sense of a loss of self, if you feel like you have lost yourself, you are not sure who you are anymore, and you can't seem to find your truth, that's a throat chakra issue. Lack of trust in yourself, I already spoke about that, and also in the actions you take. So if you're constantly questioning yourself, like you take an action and then you say, oh, should I have done that? Should I have said that? Not sure if this was the right thing to do, or you live in a lot of indecision, that is a throat chakra challenge or issue. Feeling cut off from your truth and walking your true path. I kind of spoke about that already. Feeling stuck in your life. So any feeling of being stagnant or stuck and wanting to kind of break out or get things moving, any lack of movement, any feeling that your life lacks some kind of dynamic nature and you can just dance in it and you just feel like you're just stuck in the mundane or the busyness, those are all throat chakra issues. Feeling controlled. Again, I spoke about agency. So any way that you feel others are controlling you and you don't have a voice in that is a throat chakra issue. Anger can manifest as a throat chakra issue. Now, anger in some ways can be helpful because I think we have a lot to be angry about in our world, and anger in itself is not bad or wrong. But when we express that anger in a way that diminishes our truth or somehow takes away our ability to express ourselves or communicate in a way that is effective, that can be a throat chakra issue. In fact, any kind of verbiage that is harmful to others is a throat chakra issue. Defensive verbiage or reactivity. So when we react verbally, that's a throat chakra issue. The inability to speak up or excessive talking and inability to listen. Those are both throat chakra issues. I'll say that again. So the inability to speak up or feeling of kind of shyness or excessive talking where you are not able to listen and you always want to say what you want to say and you always make your communication more important than others. That is all shows that there's some kind of throat chakra imbalance or a lack of being really empowered in your voice. Okay. So then there's physical issues that can manifest. So any soreness or dryness or any throat disorders, toxicity gets stored in your throat. Tightness in the throat or the neck or the shoulders, any kind of physical issue, loss of your voice physically or emotionally. But this loss of voice, laryngitis, all of that are just indicating on a kind of spiritual, metaphysical level that there may be something to work out around some of those issues I touched on, around fear, around self-expression, around communication, around stepping into your divine calling, around surrendering to divine will, claiming your agency, stepping onto the stage, unleashing your voice, all of this, it may just indicate that there's some work to do around that if you're experiencing some kind of dry or struggle with your voice. And part of why I am sharing this with you today, just full transparency, is that I have been dealing with incredible dryness and just my singing voice not being at its best. And I've tried all of the things that I know to do on a physical level to care for my voice. And a couple weeks ago, I put out a video about vocal health and self-care. So check that out. And I've been doing all of those things and it's not quite going away. So this is indicating to me that there is something for me to look at around my self-expression. And it's very interesting because I'm in the process of recording some new music right now. And I have been kind of just thinking about this and thinking about what throat issue is there. And for me, it has to do with stepping into this next level of who I am as an artist and what I want to really express. So I was thinking that these songs were done and I was ready to just hand them over to my producer to edit and mix and just say, okay, they're done. And as I was kind of meditating on this and thinking about what throat issue might be coming up, I realized that there was a lot more that I wanted to say with these songs. And so it was actually time to dive back into the deeper work of it. So that's one piece. The other thing, to be fully transparent, is I'm sitting with right now thinking about some really big changes and some things that I want to offer with She Sings Out Loud, and I'm not ready yet to say what that is. But I do believe that some of my throat challenges that have been coming up this month has to do with just needing to go deeper into the work that I want to bring to you and to create some different offerings. So that's kind of what I have come to with working with this idea of anything that manifests in the throat physically or energetically is an invitation to work on some of those key throat chakra issues. So that is what I'm doing, and that is my invitation to you today. Okay, so to move on a little bit, and we'll get to this meditation I'm going to teach you in just a moment. When we are in our vocal power, when we are expressing our truth and inner voice, we can move through all of these throat issues. And in fact, we can heal any kind of physical disorder or emotional trauma around a throat chakra issue with our voice herself. Okay? When our voice is blocked, or our self-expression is blocked, our throat suffers, and therefore our singing suffers. Okay? But we can actually use our own voice to heal those issues. Even though when we're having throat chakra issues, it impacts our singing voice, we can actually use our singing voice in order to heal all of that. It's quite magical. Our voice is so powerful in that way. And the act of using our voice herself as a healing tool will be hugely impactful in working with these throat issues, because we're really inviting her to engage very deeply and to use her own wisdom to help us to heal. Okay? Before we dive in, I just want to also just say that when we're talking about fear in the throat chakra, it can be a really deep issue, a really big thing. So I want to just invite you to be very gentle with yourself and to find your edge, because this meditation I'm going to lead you through can sometimes bring up a lot of emotions. So if you are in a safe place now where you feel like you can go there emotionally, I invite you to do this now, and then you might want to take it into an even more safe space in the future and work with this so that you're not affected by other people around you and you can really be in this space. Why it's so challenging, this kind of fear that lives in our throat, is it's really tied to our survival. And I said this a little bit before, but I want to emphasize it more, that we have inherited a silencing. We have been silenced as women for generations. And we have inherited this sense that our self-expression, that us stepping into our truth and expressing ourselves fully, means that we could actually get killed. Okay? I think that's really important to emphasize, especially as performers. There is a sense of real imminent danger if we express ourselves fully and if we take the stage. And I just think that that's not acknowledged enough. And so I really want to acknowledge it here, that your fear is real. It's biologically inherited. It's imprinted in our psyches from birth, that there is some real danger in expressing ourselves. So if you have struggled to feel powerful on stage, if you've struggled to find your voice, to unleash your voice, to express yourself fully, then I just want to say that it's okay, that I love you and I understand what you're going through, and I have totally been there. And most women have been there, especially performers and artists, because we are not just dealing with our own personal fear. We are dealing with generations of fear, and we are healing generations of karma around what it is to be a woman or a femme person. Okay? And we are healing this sense that our survival depends on us being silent. I'm going to say that again. For years, our survival has depended on us staying silent and limiting our self-expression. So when we are taking the lid off of that and we're saying, I'm here, I'm ready to be seen, I'm ready to be heard, I'm stepping onto my stage, the fear that comes with that is very real, because it has been dangerous in the past, and even today, it can be dangerous for women to fully be in their power. So I just really want to acknowledge that. It's important to work with and look at, and as you are moving past this fear or working with this fear, to really just honor and acknowledge that you are amazing, that you are doing this work for all women, for you, for your mother, for your grandmother, for your great-grandmother. You are doing this for your mother lineage, and it is huge. And so if it feels huge, it is. And it's also really, really possible for you to heal this. Okay, so let us dive in to this practice. So as I said, our voice herself can heal this. Our voice herself can heal this. So I want you to get into a comfortable position, and we're just going to take some deep breaths. And I'm going to lead you through this practice of how to use your voice as a tool to heal your throat chakra challenges. Okay, I'm just going to check the chat box quickly, see if there's any questions. Feel free to throw into the chat how this is resonating for you, if this is ringing true, if you've had this experience, what your experience with fear has been, how that's lived in your throat, anything that comes up. Okay, let's dive in. So we're going to take a couple deep breaths. Grounding down into the earth, feeling that you are becoming rooted and connected to this divine mother. Sending your energy all the way down on each exhale to not only connect to the surface of the earth, but to feel that your feet are like the roots of a tree, and they are going down, 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 all the way into the earth, to the very center of the earth, to plug in to this amazing energy resources that is our divine mother, our Mother Earth, plugging into this glowing ball of light and fire. And you're bringing that in, pulling it up through your legs, excuse me, through your legs, all the way through your low body, through your upper body, all the way up and out the top of your head. And then reaching up into the sky energy, feeling that this golden glowing light is pouring down to the top of your head, washing through your entire body, and then coming down to meet the earth energy. And just breathing with that for a moment. I want you to take your hands and just put them on your throat and just feel what that's like. Be very gentle. And just tuning into any sensation is in your throat. If there's any place that feels a little stuck, a little dry, a little swollen, a little tension. And just noticing that sensation and kind of inviting it to be present as a teacher. So we often resist the uncomfortable sensations, and this is an invitation to actually gently lean into it and invite it to reveal to you what it wants and what needs to be healed. I want you to imagine that there's this glowing golden light that fills your entire throat, swirls around the back of your neck, caresses your shoulder blades, this whole area of the throat chakra. Maybe it goes down into the lungs a bit, but mostly it's in the throat. And the light goes right into that uncomfortable sensation that you've been feeling. And if you don't have an uncomfortable sensation, you can just work with what's present. Maybe there's just a strong sensation of some kind, or a sense of emptiness or openness. Maybe there's an emotion that comes up. Whatever is present is absolutely okay. We're inviting it to speak to us. And just feeling that this light is going deeply into that throat area and swirling around this place that is giving you some kind of information with a strong sensation or a thought even, or an emotion. It is melting that, opening it up. And now very gently we're going to begin to make some sound, and we're going to start with just long held tones that are very quiet, and then as you feel inspired, you're invited to make them bigger. So just starting with some low sounds, not necessarily low in pitch, some small sounds in terms of volume. Staying present with the sense of glowing light in your throat. And you can ask your throat as you continue to sound, you can ask your voice, what needs to be healed? What message does your voice or your throat have for you? Where have you not been listening? and just letting your voice know that you're listening. We're coming into just a place of listening and sensing. We're not using our thinking mind so much, although it's okay. As thoughts arise, they will, and then they will fall away. But we are really just deeply sensing with our awareness, with our mental awareness, with our awareness of sensation and of emotion and sound. And just as you continue to sound, just keep going, making long held notes. You can move around your range, allowing anything that wants to be sounded right now to be sounded. And just continuing to rest with that question of what is the message that your voice has for you today? Maybe some stories arise or some memories, and you can just invite those to be present if they feel like they have something to say to you, but just checking in. And if your mind starts to wander in a story, just see if you can release it and come back to the sensation of sounding. Continuing to just rest in this open question of what wants to be healed and what message does your voice have for you. And you could then consider some of the challenges that I brought up. Where have you experienced fear, and where is that being held in your throat? And see if there's any sensation that comes up as you think about fear. Again, not the story behind the fear, but just is there a sensation, or is there something coming up in your throat or in your voice when you consider fear? Silencing yourself or being silenced by others. Just notice what comes up as you continue to sound. This whole time as I'm talking, you're just continuing to make sound, just kind of to imagining that glowing ball of light and just feeling into the sensations of your throat. Keeping it very gentle. This is an exploration and a conversation. Continuing to kind of be in that place of listening and receiving whatever input is coming through. Thinking about where you have or have not spoken up for your needs and seeing what comes up as you consider that. Considering where you have lost your agency and what wants to be healed in your throat around that. Where have you tried to control the outcomes of your life or been clinging to something, some solid sense of things being permanent or the way they are? Where have you resisted divine calling? Where have you held yourself back from walking your truth? Where have you resisted the divine calling? Where have you limited your self-expression? Where have you been feeling cut off from your true voice? Or where have you struggled to access your voice, both your singing voice, but also all aspects of creativity and self-expression? Where have you silenced yourself? I think that's a really important one to just keep considering. That and fear can be really huge to explore. Where have you not been standing in your power of choice or your willpower, your ability to step out and express yourself or to offer something or to take action? Where have you not trusted yourself, or where do you lack faith? And where are you not surrendering to divine will or trusting divine timing? Where are you in a struggle of control? Where are you feeling insecure or stuck creatively? Where have you not let yourself connect to the divine or to connect to your truth? Where have you been feeling a loss of your own voice or your own power? So these are the questions to sit with as you just continue to sound in your throat. And then the next step is to intentionally send the sound into the physical sensations that are arising in your throat or in your whole body and then send the sound right into the emotion. So as you might experience stories or emotions coming up, as you continue to sound, you're going to allow that to come up and then see if you can sound right into them. This is very metaphysical. It's really about intention and trusting that however you're doing it is right. So you might be wondering, am I getting this right? This feels strange. Is there something supposed to be happening? It's all a process, and it can be very, very subtle. So I just want you to trust that whatever you're doing is it, that your voice knows how to heal this, and this can be really, really simple. And as you continue to do this now, and then over time, healing will occur, and you will develop a connection with your voice as a tool for your own self-healing. So sending that sound right into the area of the throat that feels challenging, where there's tension or soreness or dryness, right into the emotion, right into the strong sensation that's coming up in any area of the body and in any emotion or any thought that is arising as you consider these questions. It is unusual to intentionally go to what feels hard. We usually want to, when we're singing, avoid those places, or anywhere in life, avoid what feels painful or difficult and go into what feels good. But by actually directing ourselves, using our voice, using the sound to the places that feel difficult, we can really access the information that is going to help us to move through these blocks. And by information, I mean it could be coming as just a release in tension. It could come as a clear vision. It could come as a word. It could come as a sensation, as an emotion. So just being open to all the information that might come as your voice continues to heal you and as you continue to receive the message that your voice is wanting to send you. So a little more just sounding into these areas. And you could keep doing this for a while, and then we're going to end for today, but you could do this on your own. And I also invite you, when you're finished with whatever session you decide to do for your personal voice sound healing practice, that you do some journaling to just reflect on what came up. And again, the message or the information could be very subtle. So just listening deeply and working with your awareness. It actually takes some practice to intend to send the sound somewhere and to actually have the sound go there. So I just invite you to take this on as a practice if you have had challenges around throat issues. And remember, that could be physical, but also could be just the energetics that I mentioned around fear and lack of self-expression and all of that, and just using your voice to help you heal. So when we are in integrity with our choices, or we are in integrity with living into our divine potential and our deepest longing, and we're in integrity with expressing ourselves the way we feel called to express, and we're moving beyond our fear, then our throat is open and our creativity and self-expression can flow. So it's open physically and energetically. When we're out of integrity with this, we're not honoring our word to ourselves, we're not honoring our divine calling, we're somehow suppressing our true self-expression, and we're not living in a place of faith and trust in ourselves and in our guides, spirit guides, and the divine in nature, whatever your faith belief is. It could just be in yourself, right? Then these issues of the throat arise, and we experience some kind of silencing, even on a subtle level. Okay, so often what we do with that silencing is we then try to get over it with aggression. We've been kind of taught as women that to get our power back, we have to kind of be forceful in a way, and sometimes that's helpful, but when it comes to our voice and self-expression, it's not always helpful. So this is an invitation to do something different, to actually, through this listening practice and this direct sending of the sound, to work with your voice itself to see what might open up. Okay, so this is kind of why our ability to receive goes hand in hand with our ability to express and to offer. They have to be working together. Okay, so I want to now just let you know, as we end for today, about a workshop that I'm going to be doing on December 13th. I'm going to be doing a workshop that I'm still designing, so just planting the seed, and I will send out a formal invitation as soon as it's ready. But it's essentially going to be about the soul sound practice, which I talk about a lot, and this is really about connecting to your true voice. And we're going to do practices like I just taught you, but on a much deeper level, because we'll have more time around healing your relationship to your voice and voicelessness, and really starting to get to know what is your authentic expression and how do you step more deeply into that, as well as how to really be powerful in sharing that with others. Okay, so this is a full one-day virtual workshop on December 13th. And I just wanted to plant that seed, but I will be letting you know how to register quite soon. And I'm excited to be offering this to you, especially coming up on the holidays where these issues of the throat chakra can be prevalent as we, gather or not because of COVID. If we, gather virtually or gather personally with family members, these issues can kind of arise. So I thought it would be important to work with this, and also to work with your singing voice as we think about caroling or holiday songs, whatever you kind of do for the holiday around voice and self-expression and the new year. So I hope you've enjoyed this practice, and please let me know how it's been for you. I'd love to just know what you're working with around your throat chakra issues and how you have found a way using this practice or your own wisdom to heal these challenges, specifically around using your own voice, but any way that you've worked with healing this. I would love to know that from you. Okay, much love, many blessings. Have a beautiful week.